What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the 3829 podcast. If you don't know by now, I am your host, Trey. Now, today we're going to be talking about the drama going on in the WNBA. But before we get started, we got Ice back on the pod. So we're going to go ahead and say what's up to him one time before we jump into it.
What's going on, 3829 family? Did you miss me?
All right, y'all. So as I said in the intro, we are going to be covering all the drama going on in the WNBA right now. If you have not heard, on Monday, the WNBA and its players decided to agree to a moratorium. If you're not sure what that means, that basically just means that that's going to put a pause on all business WNBA related. So that does not restrict players from access to team facilities or anything like that. But it does get kind of awkward when, most of these players are free agents training with these with their current teams when they may not even be getting a contract from them next season. Now, golly, now we did the WNBA has increased what their offer was for the CBA. Obviously, if you didn't know, that is why we got to this point of a moratorium, is that the CBA was not able to be agreed upon. Now, their most recent offer, seeing the maximum contract growing from 250,000 a year to $1 million a year, and that can go up to 1.3 million through revenue share. Now the average contract would jump up from about 120 million to about 530,000. I mean 120,000, sorry, to about 530,000. And then the minimum contract would actually jump up to what the current max is. So the minimum contract would be 250,000. And players like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Brookers, who are still on their rookie deal, would see nearly double of the minimum contract. So I don't think that I think that that is a great deal. We obviously see a lot of increases with that deal, but what's really keeping them far apart is the revenue share. So the WNBA offered 70% of net revenue, meaning after expenses are paid, after they pay for flights, travel, health, everything like that. Then they're going to come back and pay, the players. What the players are asking for is 30% of gross revenue. So basically the revenue before, they pay out any expenses. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that the WNBA players should go ahead and accept the last offer, or you think they should stay firm in, what they're trying to accomplish?
Um, okay. So first and foremost, there is a lot of change, it's a lot. And I know these players, they're trying to capitalize, right? Some of these players, they don't hurt their last hurrah. They trying to get as much money as they can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, what that does though is it kind of stiffs the new generation coming in, right? you know. But with that being said, from a business aspect, it does make sense, to pay all expenses, right? Before distributing out, money, right? That that just is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most business owners, after, taking loss after loss after loss, they're going to make sure, okay, let me pay all this money back. And, I believe there's a topic I read upon that we're probably going to get into later about them actually having to sell a little bit of stake, right? To actually get money to, what I'm saying, advertise and promote more WNBA. And, that is paying off and everybody's trying to get their slice of the pie. And so we see all this chaos and this clutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's some terms in there that I do like, I do see. And as far as the revenue share goes, I'm not sure if the players are going to win this battle because yes, it's about getting you guys paid, but it's also about business as well. And until, you know what I'm saying, there's more players that are highly marketable, not just ones that are, coming in hooping. Because, don't get me wrong, those girls, they're coming in, they're hooping and they're killing it. But there's another aspect to this where, you got to be highly marketable as well. And, until that rises, I don't think they win the revenue share battle. But that's just my thoughts on it.
No, definitely, definitely. And I definitely agree with what you say about the marketability aspect. You get what I'm saying? Obviously, Caitlin Clark doesn't make a lot of W money on her WNBA contract. We know that Kelsey Mitchell was the highest paid player on Indiana Fever this last season. We know that she was a max player. But with you, one, rising, what qualifies as a max? Because realistically, if you ask me, you know, paying a player 200 or basically 250,000 versus a million, that's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there would be a larger, gap. Maybe a player like Kelsey Mitchell doesn't necessarily get the a million. Maybe they get, not saying that she's not deserving of it, but just based off of the marketability aspect, maybe she still sees a pay raise to about 750, 800,000, but not getting that full max because of the marketability aspect. You get what I'm saying? Now, one thing that they were also separate on is that the WNBA is offering a $5 million salary cap. What the
Mm.
union is asking for is a $10.5 million salary cap. So not only to raise the amount of pay, but also they want to allow more players to get that max contract. They don't want, that is based off of that salary cap and what the contracts could be, that teams could possibly, get 3 to 4 max players. You get what I'm saying? Under that structure. So I don't necessarily agree with it, especially because we see the amount of teaming. The Aces last year. How many
Yep.
Olympian? How many Olympians
That's
did they have on their squad?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought about, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let's take this current NBA, right, where they did this second apron stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um Basically what that does is, okay, OKC just got they big three, right? They secured them under big contracts. Well, now you're gonna have to find veteran role players that don't mind taking a pay cut that just want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna have to constantly do it. You can't bring in more star quality guys or, borderline all star type of guys, that can get big money somewhere else, and everything like that. Um, with that 10.8, now 5 million, I mean, I guess you can negotiate on that per se,
No,
but
definitely.
doubling it,
Mm.
that's not gonna happen because like you said, right, with the league expanding, right? You're going to need more stars in more places. And I mean, having 5 Olympians on a team, that's just ridiculous.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly. And sorry to cut you off, but let's just be real. When we did have a situation where we had 4 Olympians on, an NBA roster, or 5 All Stars on an NBA roster, um, you know, one, you nobody else is really enjoying the sport anymore. And where they're at, they need as much parity as they can get. They need every single fan base tuning in to as many games, as possible, because what that does is, one, you're actually taking an interest in it. You get what I'm saying? It's been
Mm.
I'm a Pacer guy, you get what I'm saying? When they was on that 13, 14, they barely, I don't know if they've reached 10 wins yet, but if they have, they barely gotten it. You know what I'm saying? Beginning of the season, I watched every single of the first 10 games. After I seen how the season was headed, I didn't tune into it as much. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
So every team needs to be able to compete. You get what I'm saying? Now,
Yeah.
we've been really focused on the CBA. I want to kind of switch to the moratorium a little bit more and kind of talk about how that affects the offseason. Honestly, the two biggest losers that I feel in this whole situation is the Toronto Tempo and the Portland Fire. because since this moratorium, time out, since this moratorium is in effect, they cannot go ahead and start their expansion draft. So
Mhm.
while, other teams, are still allowed to have their players come to the facility, still run practice during this moratorium, and can still build team chemistry, the Toronto Tempo and the Portland Fire don't have that option. Now, if you guys don't know how expansion drafts work, even the players that are free agents will still be able to be protected by their teams. It's not that everybody's going to be up for grabs for these teams. Just so we can be clear on that. But yeah, those are the two biggest losers because they're not able to get their team together and start developing any chemistry at the most basic level. You know what I'm saying? Like when you look back at the Golden State Valkyries, they were able to finish fourth in their conference. Why? Because they were able to have a full offseason with each other.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? They had the same record as the Mercury, and we seen what the Mercury did.
Right. Right. And I mean, yeah, I guess to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does, hurt for those teams, right? Because yeah, you want to be able to, what I'm saying, get your ducks in line, your pines in order, right, to develop the chemistry as you said, and basically be able to just create that environment, if you will, right? Lay the
Mm-hmm.
foundation, right? What's this team about? Um, what is our core principles? What do we stand on, right? Every team has that core foundation. This is our identity. This is what we are. You can't get that without being able to put together a team in the first place, right?
No, exactly. But and also, as we talked about earlier, or I'm not sure if we had mentioned it quite yet, but qualifying offers and free agency, no free agent offers, no qualifying offers can be sent out until not only this new CBA is agreed upon, but until it is, signed, sealed, and sent. You get what I'm saying? So what has been going on is Brianna Stewart has been very vocal about both sides wanting to get this everything completed, not an agreement, but everything done by February 1st. Now, I'll be honest. I think part of the reason that the WNBA players want to get everything done by February 1st is that we've kind of seen a drop in ratings for Unrivaled, the big rival to the WNBA. On their opening night this year, they only drew in 175,000 viewers compared to last year's 312,000 viewers. 5 days in, they had already dropped down to about 150,000 viewers, and one stream had only had about 32,000 viewers. So not the biggest numbers, and then you also see big losses in players participating. You don't have Brittany Griner this year. You don't have Angel Reese this year. You don't have Sabrina Ionescu this year. You get what I'm saying? You don't have all of these, heavy hitting names. You get what I'm saying? Um,
Mm.
but they did bring in a few more players. They brought in Paige. They brought in Kelsey Mitchell. They brought in more players, but they weren't the outside of Paige Brookers. I'll be honest, they weren't the level of stars that they lost. Now, it's not that these players didn't join because they dislike the league. It partially because they just want to be able to participate with the Team USA. Now, another reason for these ratings drops has been attributed to the fact that this season started 2 weeks earlier. It started on January 5th instead of January 19th. So, what you're now competing with is NFL. You're competing with college football. It may not have been any games on the 5th, but you're competing with that. Now you're competing with college basketball, men's and women's. You know what I'm saying? So to be competing with all of that and still being able to bring in 175,000, like everybody talks about that as a bad thing. Realistically, Let's go back to when the WNBA had to sell stake, that 16% stake. How much do you think that how many viewers do you think they were getting on a nightly basis? I'm sure they would have considered 175,000 as good. So like I feel like people get so caught up on the ratings, or this may have slumped a little bit this year. This may I feel like they're kind of focused on the wrong things. You get what I'm saying? At the end of the day, Unrivaled was created to give the women an opportunity to continue to compete and make a fair salary while still staying in the country without having to leave and go like I believe it was Kelsey Plum said it. Why do I have to go to a communist country to make capitalist dollars? Get what I'm saying?
Right. And so now with that, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you think that these players, right, are their own downfall?
Mm, no,
Or-
I'll say I'll say no. Now, if they let this moratorium stretch out and let it, um continue to go past that February 1st date, then I would say that they're on downfall. Because
Mm,
right now, what they had leverage up until this point. And even still, I don't feel like they've necessarily lost it. Like I said, I believe that the goal of starting Unrivaled was never to be the biggest, sporting event on TV. Plus, let's not forget that streaming numbers aren't measured. So the people that are tuning in through HBO Max are not being accounted for. But regardless, that that's not what they started. They started to continue because they wanted to continue to compete and they wanted to make a decent amount of money. You know what I'm saying? It's as simple as that.
right. Right. And the reason I asked you that is because with, what I'm saying, those big name stars not participating in Unrivaled, do you think that that puts leverage, back some leverage back into, what I'm saying, the WNBA's pocket?
Well, no, because the reason that Angel Reese didn't participate is because she wanted to rest and she wanted to, be ready for Team USA. The reason Caitlin's not competing is because we've seen what her injuries were last season. You get what I'm saying? She definitely needs to
Right.
rest and recover. Granted, she does have some of the best actually probably the best doctors in all of the WNBA. Shout out to St. Vincent, you feel me? But yeah, so with that being said, I don't think that it's them saying, "Oh, I don't want to be a part of that." It's saying, and then you also have to consider that last offer raised the average contract for the WNBA will now be higher than the average contract for Unrivaled. So that was
Mm,
also a big part of the incentive for the first season. So if
right.
Caitlin Clark can still make the same amount of money, and she has all these endorsements, Angel Reese has all these endorsements. The main thing was we can make more money over here. Even though Caitlin
Mm,
Clark didn't compete in the first season, Angel Reese's main thing is I can make more money over here. That was her whole thing. She got in the league. I can make more money doing this. I can make more money doing this. I can make more money doing this. Now, with Unrivaled, she can no longer make more money than she would in the WNBA. I think it's just the way they say the time is money. You get what I'm saying? And you run the risk of getting hurt. You get what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense for a person like Caitlin Clark to go out there and risk it. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Now, for players like Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, it does make sense for them to go do it, because no disrespect to either of them. Yes, they are great WNBA players, but they're not necessarily household names. They have become more recently. Now, I'm not to the average person. Obviously, we've known who Brianna Stewart is. I'll be honest. I just got hip to Nafisa Collier not too long ago. After Tamika Catchings retired, I tuned out of the WNBA. I'm be honest. But
I'm the same.
shout out to Tamika Catchings because she actually just got a role back with the organization. She's gonna be working with the Boom, the Pacers, and the Fever. So shout out to Tamika Catchings, man.
Wait, she signed with the Boom?
Huh? Yeah, she's working with the whole organization.
Hmm. Okay. No, that okay, that's dope. I didn't know that. I already knew she had a role with the Fever, but I didn't know she had
Yeah, the
something going
Pacers,
on.
Fever, and the Boom.
Okay. Yeah. Congrats to her, man. She's become a Indiana staple. You know what
No,
I'm
for
saying? I
sure.
remember going to her events all the time as a kid. So yeah, that's pretty dope to see.
Man, I'll never forget running into her at that Georgetown movie theater. I will tell that story until I pass away. Nah, facts,
Man,
because I remember it. Bro, I was about to go watch Grown Ups 2. And I look over and it's Tamika Catchings and I believe maybe her son. I'm not sure who the young man was with her. But I'm like, oh shit, that's Tamika Catchings. But yeah.
yeah. But you know what? It's so crazy because like you can catch her at a Walmart anywhere. And it's like it got to the point now, it's like I don't even bother her no more. I just want her to, you know what I'm saying, feel comfortable in the city.
Not facts. Facts. But back to what we was talking about, and then the one last topic I wanted to hit before we got off of here. Now this has not been confirmed. This is just early talks. Ice had hinted at it a little bit earlier in the pod. It is just the fact that the WNBA, that stake that they had to sell in 2021, that 16% stake for 75 million, which was the largest sale in women's history, in women's sports history, not women's basketball, women's sports history. So shout out to Kathy Engelbert for that. But they're now looking and to possibly buy back that 16% stake that they sold in 2021. Now, there's not a deal structured yet. They don't necessarily know how the deal will be funded yet. It's just very early exploratory stages. But what makes it interesting is if what what will most likely happen is the WNBA players will have to accept that gross revenue. You know what I'm saying? Now, or net revenue. I'm sorry. They'll probably have to accept the net revenue. Am I? No, I don't got my. They'll probably have to accept the 30% after of the profit. Okay, so with them having to accept 30% of the profit, if they are able to get that 16% stake back, that's more profit to be shared. You get what I'm saying? So that's what makes it interesting about that is that it's not. I don't believe that the WNBA is trying to not pay players. I don't believe that. Seeing the how much these contracts are jumping, and then also seeing that they are trying to get the revenue share and trying to get more revenue in general. You know what I'm saying? So I don't believe that they're trying to do anything wrong to their players. But yeah, I think that if they are able to do that, I said that on the last episode, it's too many hands in the pot. You're not gonna be profitable when you got to give you got a pizza, 8 slices, but you got 9 people to feed. That's basically what the WNBA been doing. You know what I'm saying? They had owned half their league. So
Mhm.
trying to get that stake back, that's ideal. You know what I'm saying? So then you can actually pay the players more when it's time for a new CBA negotiation. Those contracts could possibly jump up to 5 million. They're saying that by the end of this CBA, the contracts could reach 2 million. So they could possibly be hitting 5 million, and then by the time you're hitting five, now you're looking at a $15 million salary, or probably not 15, probably closer to 20, 22, $22 million salary cap.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the way I see it, right? They're trying to, you know, restructure and, get this this revenue, right, as they are increasing and expanding. They're trying to cut their loose ends, you know what I'm saying? Basically take the hands out of the pot, um, so that, they can be able to afford to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it starts right with getting everybody on board and getting everybody to understand that hey, for a long time we had been losing money, and because we needed to raise money here, raise money there to get certain things done, those people are looking at us and saying, "Hey, we want that money back," and we're gonna get it one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether that's having stake and equity, in the WNBA, right? Or them paying back those loans, they're coming for their money,
No,
right?
for sure. And the thing is, you got to think that 16% was bought at 75 million when the league was valued at 500 million as a whole, or less than 500 million as a whole. They've added 3 teams since then, and they're going to add 3 more by the end of the decade. Each one of them teams are paying 250 million as an expansion fee. So they definitely not paying 75 million to get that 16% back. They are definitely going to be paying a pretty penny.
75 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but yeah, they're trying to take, what I'm saying, hands out so they can, distribute more. At least that's how I'm interpreting.
No, definitely. That's what I seen it as too. They trying to get that 16% back. They trying to cut expenses. So then there's more profit to share. You get what I'm saying? Which I think that is genius. I think that's part of the reason why the players shouldn't try to get that 30% before, of all revenue, because you're gonna limit the amount that the league can expand. Because realistically, if you taking money off the top, then they can't reinvest in the proper ways. You're tanking growth. Get what I'm saying? And I feel
Mm.
like what they think is going to be so beneficial to them will ultimately end up coming to bite them later if that's what they are able to get.
Hmm. Yeah, 100% agree. And so to go back to when I asked you that question, do you think the players are their own biggest downfall? Right. I was partially, asking it pertaining to Unrivaled, right? Because I saw a comment where Alyssa Thomas said, well, I didn't want to play because I feel like 3-on-3 may hurt my development or something like that, right? And with that, what I can say is just like I saw some players, last year in Unrivaled that, you otherwise probably wouldn't pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I've seen their game grow. You know what I'm saying? Help them develop a little confidence, develop a little bit. I know Alyssa Thomas don't need to develop any confidence. You know what I'm saying? But
I don't know. After that buzzer beater, some confidence might need to be redeveloped. Said she
trust me,
called divorce.
listen, some people might now look, there's some things that she need to develop, but I think she got an overabundance of confidence. You heard what I'm saying?
Dog. They said she called divorce.
Good Lord, man. Oh
Oh
my
my
goodness.
gosh.
But going back to it, right? To answer the question, are the players their own biggest downfall? Right? Is like I said earlier, right? With them trying to capture and grab as much money as they can, because a lot of those players, aka, Dewana Bonner, right? Her spell, right? Players like her on their final stretches, on their final legs, right? Trying to rake in money that, what I'm saying, they missed all those years, quote unquote, right? With them trying to do that, like you said, is hurting, right? And coming back to bite them, right? The problem is those older players do not care about that, right? So you need some young, not all young players, right? Because all young players might mess up the deal, right? Not all of them are business savvy. Yes, they've been making money with the NIL and all that, but let's be real. Some of these young people, when they ain't, what I'm saying, they ain't had the experiences some of the, older ones have had with money, they're going to, what I'm saying, they're probably going to mess some things up, right? But some of those players should be, what I'm saying, in the forefront in those, CBA meetings representing, because at the end of the day, they are the future, right? That's just
Mm-hmm.
like America. Keep voting for 70, 80-year-old mothers to
Hey,
run the president. You
hey,
know what I'm saying? And,
you preaching to the
and
choir
they
right now.
messing up our future. You know what I'm saying? Shoot. Like that, man.
Nah, for
Just
real.
saying.
That's that. Hey, listen, I said that.
After
Why
50
is
years
our
old,
last
you
two
know,
presidents? Why is our last two presidents touching 90, bro?
man, one of them had dementia. The other one, oh my goodness, dog.
This ain't a Democrat Republican thing. This is a serious problem. See, both
Nah, for
sides
real.
is put, bruh.
Messing up. Like, so I ain't gonna be able to get Social Security because these old mugs keep tricking it up. Come on,
Man,
man. This is ridiculous. Messing up my money, my future.
nah, for real.
Man.
Nah. But with that being said, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning into the 3829 podcast, and we're gonna go ahead and jump to that outro. All right, y'all, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of the 3829 podcast. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like, share it with somebody that you think would also enjoy it, and I'm gonna let y'all holler at Ice before we get out of here.
That'll do it for this episode of the 3829 pod. If you like the content, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, comment what you want to see next. And we're gonna see you on the next one. Peace.